Hey, heroes. Welcome to part 2 of What If Deku was in Class 1B and had a harem. Let's dive back into the chaos and romance of Deku's new life. After saying those words, black lines marked Izuku's body, slightly increasing his size and musculature as he adopted an intimidating aura and his eyes turned black with white pupils. With Tetsu, his quirk improved, he covered his entire body. The clothes on his upper body were torn because of the spikes that came out of his skin. From the waist down, it was only a kind of very resistant dark metal. In that, the two of them lunged at the Nomu, starting with the exchange of blows. Izuku, let's not backback Tetsu. Tetsu, I don't plan on doing that Izuku bro. Both of them hit the Nomu savagely, they planted their feet on the ground preventing the Nomu's blows from sending them flying. The Nomu was already tired because of the curses that left small effects and the constant regenerating since when hitting Tetsu his spikes hurt him forcing him to regenerate. In that wild battle no one gave a truce, neither the Nomu nor the boys rested from hitting their opponent who were already experiencing fatigue. The Nomu continued to give strong but slow blows compared to the beginning. With the boys he already felt how the berserker effect was disappearing, Tetsu's spikes were breaking with each blow received and that some parts of his body were losing the black hue returning to the usual metallic color. With Izuku he felt like his strength was being reduced as well as his speed, but at this point they could only clench their fists hard and continue hitting. Shigaraki watched all this with fury and scratching his neck said. Shigaraki, how is it possible that two brats can stand up to my Nomu? Kurogiri, I don't know but we have to retreat, the heroes should be close by now. Shigaraki, no this can't end like this Nomu kill those brats. In the fight the Nomu kept hitting, he heard the order but he was already tired and in a desperate act he grabbed Tetsu's leg but in that Izuku held him by his arms and Tetsu grabbed the Nomu's arm with his other leg. Izuku grabbed Tetsu's arms and spun around, lifting the Nomu and starting to spin. At that, Tetsu released his grip on his legs and with a kick to the head made the Nomu release him, sending him to where Shigaraki and Kurogiri were. The latter, due to the surprise, was unable to form a portal, so they had to jump away so that the Nomu would not hit them. With Izuku and Tetsu already standing on the floor, Izuku saw how the berserker mode was about to disappear from Tetsu. Knowing how he would look after it disappeared holding Tetsu's shoulder. Tetsu, Izuku bro, what's up? He said tired and breathing hard from the fight. Izuku, I'm sorry but I'm the president of the salon and I have to ensure your health. Tetsu, why do you say that? Before Izuku could finish speaking, with the little strength he had left, he quickly lifted Tetsu up and threw him towards the exit. He knew that with his quirk active, Tetsu would withstand the impact. One of the reasons he let Tetsu fight alongside him against the Nomu is that he knew that if things got ugly, he could throw Tetsu away from danger thanks to his quirk. In that he saw how the Nomu approached panting, Izuku knew that if he used his strength the berserker effect was going to quickly reduce until it disappeared so he just put his arms together and began to withstand the blows that the Nomu sent him. Outside the heroes were arriving along with All Might in his civilian form, the latter worried about his successor, Bakugo, but calmed down when he saw him lying on the floor next to the other students. That's what Nezu said. Nezu, you can tell me what happened. I speak as calmly as I could muster at that moment, and Kendo and Momo begin to explain to him what happened. But two heroines were looking for a green-haired boy among the students and when they didn't find them, they interrupted the girls and asked. Mirko/Ryukyu, where is Izuku? Momo, Kendo and the other women were surprised why they called Izuku so familiarly but they were alarmed when they remembered where he was. Kendo, he's fighting alongside Tetsu against a monster inside. At that Aizawa begins to recover listening to the conversation. Aizawa, they are crazy. Everyone paid attention to that. Aizawa, that monster they said was made to kill All Might had many quirks including regeneration, super strength and shock absorption. We have to go for the fast one. All the heroes, upon hearing those words, became alarmed and began to run towards the facilities, except for All Might, who for him had no reason to overexert himself since his successor was already safe. When all the heroes were near the entrance, the door broke, and a wounded Tetsu, barely conscious, was thrown out and rolled across the floor. 1B, Tetsu. They went to help their partner who was trying to get him on his feet. Kendo saw how parts of his body were still black and some spikes on his body, understood that Izuku had improved his quirk, in that they saw how his quirk was deactivating when that happened. Tetsu tried to move but in that. Tetsu, ah! He screamed, alarming everyone. Recovery girl came over to check on him, shocked, saying. Recovery girl, The young man has severe muscle pain, but it is in areas where I see that he has not been hit. I don't know what it could be. At that, Kendo remembered something. Kendo, Izuku said he had a skill that would allow him to buy time. This may be an effective using that skill. Mirko, then we have to hurry. If Izuku used that ability on himself, he must be in trouble. He said so that he jumped towards the entrance followed by all the heroes. When they entered, they were surprised to see how everything was in ruins. There were small craters, unconscious villains on the ground, and pillars of ice all over the place. But what surprised him the most was seeing a green-haired man in the center of everything with his clothes torn, receiving brutal blows from a bird-like monster. With Izuku, he was receiving the blows of the Nomu, but then he felt how the ability ended and his muscles began to hurt. He just said, "Izuku, damn." After saying that, he was thrown a few meters by the Nomu's blow, rolling on the ground. The Nomu was advancing to kill Izuku, but a kick sends him flying. His impact absorption from the Nomu is already at the limit due to the blows from Izuku and Tetsu, and his regeneration was already too slow, which is why he could not defend himself from the rain of kicks from an enraged Mirko. And if that were not enough, an angry dragon threw a punch at him, slamming him against a wall. Shigaraki, seeing this, just said, "Shigaraki, those damn heroes have already arrived. Let's go, Kurogiri." Kurogiri, understood, he said, and then opened a portal through which they disappeared. Izuku calmed down when he saw Rumi and Ryuko. With difficulty he turned his gaze to the entrance, seeing the heroes, then unable to bear it any longer he closed his eyes, falling into unconsciousness. Izuku was waking up. "Izuku, there is my little head, where am I?" Izuku looked around and then looked at himself and saw that he was on a stretcher, all bandaged and with casts on his arms. Then he remembered everything that happened and let out a sigh. "Izuku, at least it's all over now," he said with relief. At that moment the door opened, through which his mother entered with a basket full of apples, but when she saw her son awake she threw the basket on the floor and ran to hug him. "Izuku, okay mom, I'm fine." But suddenly his mother stopped hugging him and started pulling his ear. "Inko, how could you put yourself in that dangerous situation? What would have happened if the heroes hadn't arrived in time?" Izuku knew very well what would have happened. He was grateful that the heroes had arrived, otherwise it would have been the end for him, but he couldn't let his companions get hurt and he couldn't let a creature like that go free. Breaking free from his mother's grip, he said, "Izuku, don't be scared mom, that's already over and I'm fine. I couldn't allow that creature to hurt my classmates or continue to be loose. Inko, you are still my son and I don't like you exposing yourself to danger. I know very well that being a hero involves risks, but promise me that you will think about yourself before doing something crazy." "Izuku, I promise mom, I'll be more careful from now on." After that they continued talking for a while, then Izuku asks, "Izuku, mom, how long was I unconscious?" To which his mother said, "Inko, you were 3 days without waking up, you worried me too much." At that Izuku opened his eyes wide. "Izuku, what about classes?" "Inko, don't worry, classes have been suspended for the rest of the week due to the incident," he said while peeling an apple. After that they continued talking until their mother had to leave because it was already getting dark. In the following days, his classmates from Class 1B came along with most of Class 1A since they had found out that Izuku woke up, so they went to thank him for his help, except Bakugo, Mineta, Lita, and Kaminari, who excused themselves saying that they had better things to do. He also received a visit from 2 heroines who didn't look very happy, and well, what happened was, Saturday morning, Izuku was having a bowl of cereal with milk for breakfast, but suddenly he heard the door being kicked open. "Izuku, what the?" Before finishing speaking he saw who it was that kicked the door, seeing Rumi entering followed by Ryuko, who, upon seeing him, hugged him, surprising Izuku. "Izuku, oh." But before he could continue he received a blow to the head from each one. "Izuku, ouch. Girls, I'm still hurt," he said, but saw how the girls glared at him. Rumi looked at him with a frown while Ryuko with her reptilian eyes sharpened her gaze. "Rumi/Ryuko, what were you thinking?" Then a series of scoldings followed. After that they talked for a while and then said goodbye to the green-haired boy, making him promise that the 3 of them would go out somewhere later. Sunday. Izuku was waking up. Today was going to be the last day that Izuku would be in the hospital since he would be discharged. He could have used his book to heal faster, but he decided to take his stay in the hospital as a rest. Anyway, the UA offered to pay the medical expenses, so he didn't worry. At the UA. This is going to be how the heroes react to Izuku's battle. If you don't want to read it, skip to where it says Monday. In the UA, more specifically in the director's office, were the teachers and some top heroes along with some more, discussing the reason for the meeting. Then Nezu enters, causing the whole place to fall into complete silence. Then he speaks. Nezu, well, since we are all gathered, let's begin the meeting. At that the eternal number 2 speaks. Endeavor, so that meeting Nezu, I'm already starting to get tired and I have important matters to attend to. Nezu looks sternly at the hero saying. Nezu, I think those matters will have to wait since the topic of this meeting is a potential danger to society. After saying that, everyone put on a serious face, so someone spoke up. Kamui would, and what would be that danger you speak of, director? He said in a respectful way since he had also been his student. Nezu, without answering, turned on a projector showing some images of Shigaraki. Nezu, this is the leader of a new group that calls itself the League of Villains. They have the support of a large group of villains. For now the only members we know are Shigaraki and this fog man named Kurojiri. Before the heroes said that it's just another group of villains, Nezu continued. Nezu, but the real danger is not represented by them but by this creature. He said, changing the photo showing the Nomu. Some heroes were scared away by his appearance. Nezu, he knows him by the name Nomu. Research by the laboratory and recovery has shown that this creature was once human. The heroes were shocked to learn that the monster was a human. Nezu, recovery, could you tell us the details? The glances turned to an old lady who was drinking tea, then she spoke. Recovery girl, basically she is a human who was mutated into that creature. It seems that she was created in such a way that she has great resistance and raw power, capable of adapting the multiple quirks that she had. Everyone was surprised, but then someone spoke. Mount Lady, what do you mean, multiple quirks? The heroine exclaimed in surprise, and she was not the only one. All the heroes were surprised by the information, so Recovery spoke. Recovery girl, that creature had 3 quirks which were, super strength, shock absorption and regeneration. Everyone was amazed because that was a very dangerous combination. That's what Aizawa spoke about. Aizawa, I think I heard him say that creature was made to kill All Might. Aizawa spoke with a tired tone. He was bandaged only on his arms and had already recovered from the broken ribs he had. Then everyone tensed upon hearing Aizawa's words, even All Might, and then a hero who was not present at the rescue spoke. Hero, but with those quirks it wouldn't be invincible. How did they manage to capture that thing? The heroes who were not in the rescue also wondered the same thing, to which Nezu responded. Nezu, it was thanks to which 2 students faced the Nomu, tiring him out and causing his quirks to wear out greatly. Hero, you're saying 2 kids were able to take on that thing? Nezu, why don't you see it for yourself? He said to start putting a video. Nezu, this video is from the USJ cameras and audio on the day of the attack. The video began to play. It showed how the villains and Shigaraki appeared, also when Aizawa and Blood King launched into a fight, in that they saw how Izuku summoned his book, and then a heroine asked. Mount Lady, what is that book? Most heroes also showed interest, while some arrogant heroes ignored him as they didn't think he was strong. Nezu, that is his quirk called Grimoire. As far as we know, it allows him to summon 2 grimoires. One allows him to improve himself and his allies such as strength, speed, etc., and the other allows him to cast curses such as blindness, dizziness, among others, but the one that matters most is that it can weaken quirks. Nezu knew this as they interrogated Izuku after he woke up, thanking him for saving their classmates and teachers. Then a hero spoke. Extra hero, that kid would be a good helper. At that some other heroes said the same thing regarding Izuku being a good helper and so on. Aizawa, Blood King, Mirko and Ryuko looked at those heroes in a bad way. Mirko and Ryuko, knowing that Izuku did not like being told that he would only be a helper, and Aizawa for having seen the power in him to be a hero. In that Nezu speaks. Nezu, we better keep watching then give your opinions. In that Nezu continued with the video. They saw how the boys guided by 13 tried to get out while Aizawa and Blood King fought, also how the mist appeared with the boys and left 13 incapacitated, likewise the quick action of Izuku seeing how he ordered Todoroki to raise a huge wall of ice and use it to stabilize 13, they saw how he yelled at Lita and fainted Bakugo, something that the symbol of peace who was about to claim did not like, but Nezu speaks. Nezu, we will have to talk to young Bakugo since in a situation like this there is no place for that behavior. All Might remained silent so as not to be made a fool of. Continuing with the video, they were amazed by Izuku's leadership. They also saw how Izuku, when he was about to separate from his companions, he quickly improved them all, also how he faced villains with Tetsu being amazed by how they cooperated, they observed how Izuku prioritized the safety of his partner and the injured heroine by sending Tetsu to escort her to the exit, in that everyone saw how Blood King crashed into the ice wall by the blow. The aforementioned rubbed his head wrapped in bandages. They watched in horror as the creature called Nomu hit Aizawa mercilessly while Shigaraki explained everything about the Nomu and so on. In that a hero spoke. Extra hero, do you think they have more of those Nomus? What recovery is talking about? Recovery, I don't think so, because if that were the case they would have brought more Nomus to ensure their victory. I think they take a while to produce them, so we'll wait a while before seeing another one like that. Those words calmed the heroes a little. Nezu, we better continue. Everyone turned their attention back to the screen watching as Aizawa was rescued by Izuku, but the Nomu caught up with them watching as Aizawa stood in front of Izuku receiving the blow, flying against the wall, falling unconscious, in that everyone watched in astonishment as Izuku faced the Nomu dodging and landing blows, and as Tetsu appeared with his quirk active receiving a blow that was going to hit Izuku and joining the fight. Then they watched as they flew out, arriving with their companions who had gathered, and how Izuku sent Todoroki to raise another wall of ice protecting them all for the moment as Izuku and Tetsu knelt tired and sore from the blows. At that Best Jean spoke. Everyone turned their attention back to the screen watching Aizawa being rescued by Izuku, but the Nomu caught up with them watching Aizawa get in front of Izuku receiving the blow and being thrown against the wall and falling unconscious, in that everything. Best Jean, they put up a very good fight, but they are already too exhausted to continue fighting. Nezu, keep watching. The director said with a smile. Everyone returned to concentrate on the screen watching as Izuku told his companions to leave, that he and Tetsu would gain time. That action surprised the real heroes and seemed stupid to the fake ones who were quick to give their opinion. False hero, how stupid would be to escape with the others, one's safety always comes first. I speak firmly, being supported by some other heroes, being seen with displeasure by the other heroes until the director shook his head in disappointment. Nezu, I'll talk to you later. In that everyone saw the projection again and saw how the Nomu broke the ice wall running towards Izuku and Tetsu who were standing. Izuku put away his book of curses, missing the heroes, in that they saw how Izuku shouted the word berserker. So that later all the heroes saw in astonishment how Izuku's eyes changed color and black lines were marked all over his body, but they were more struck by how Tetsu's metallic skin adopted a darker color and spikes came out of his body, adopting with Izuku an intimidating aura. All the heroes were amazed by the change of the students in that. Beast Jean, without leaving his astonishment, asked Nezu. Beast Jean, excuse me Nezu, what happened to the students? Nezu, what you just witnessed is one of the strongest abilities of the student Midorilla, which is Berserker, which allows the user and one more person to explosively improve all their abilities while momentarily evolving the quirk of the other person, but after the effect leaves those who used it with severe muscle pain for half a day. Everyone was surprised by such an ability. Although the ability leaves the user incapacitated upon completion, it is an ability that can make the difference in a battle, and some heroes were already thinking of giving him an internship, the fake ones as support, and the real heroes wanted to discover and help the boy reach his full potential. Nezu, if you want the student in your agencies, wait until after the festival. Let's continue with the video. In that they saw how Izuku along with Tetsu ran against the Nomu, starting a brutal exchange of blows that lasted a few minutes, in which they saw how the boys and the Nomu began to tire. Beast Jean, they have to finish the fight quickly, they are already at the limit. I speak while watching the video, which showed how Shigaraki lost his patience and ordered the Nomu to finish quickly. They observed how the Nomu tried to grab Tetsu by the legs and Izuku held Tetsu by the arms, spinning and throwing the Nomu away. Everyone was surprised by the coordination of the two students, but they watched as Izuku grabbed Tetsu by the shoulder and pulled him towards the exit. Extra hero, why does he do that? They were already going to win. He said, surprised, to which Ryukyu responds. Ryukyu, didn't you hear what Nezu said? When his technique ends they will be paralyzed by muscle pain, so they will be defenseless, so Izuku threw his partner to save him. Everyone was surprised by the deduction, but they heard blows. Looking back at the projection, and to their surprise and horror they saw how Izuku endured the brutal blows that the Nomu gave him. Extra hero, why doesn't he fight back or escape? Nezu, young Izuku told us that at that moment he had no strength, so if he moved or tried to attack, the berserker effect would end up leaving him defenseless, so he only had to resist. Everyone was surprised by the boy's determination, and then the projection went out. Nezu, after that we arrived and managed to control the situation. In the end, the reason for this is to warn them that if they come across these creatures, they should save the civilians, ask for support, and avoid a direct confrontation against them if possible. Understood. Heroes endeavor, All Might, Hi. Concluding the meeting, It must be said that Ryuko and Rumi were happy that Izuku showed what he was worth. Monday. Izuku was already walking through the halls of the academy. He said goodbye to his mother but not before promising that he would take better care of himself. Already entering his classroom, he is greeted by all his classmates. The most energetic ones were asking him things about his quirk. The calmer ones thanked him, but a spiky hair wrapped an arm around his neck and said, Tetsu, I'm glad you're okay now, Izuku bro. Izuku, I'm glad you're okay, Tetsu. Tetsu was discharged a day before Izuku woke up. Tetsu, yes, although the muscle pain it gave me was a surprise. Izuku, sorry about that, because of the situation I couldn't explain to you what would happen. Tetsu, no problem Izuku bro, I hope to fight like this again someday. At that point Nato joins the conversation. Nato, at least you showed the useless people of Class A how superior Class B is. Izuku, although we receive help from them, I already told you that here nobody believes themselves superior to anyone. Nato, tell it to the crazy explosive and Sonic's cousin. Izuku, good point. He said with a drop of sweat. Blood King, good morning guys, take your seats. Everyone went to their places in order, then Blood King speaks. Blood King, okay guys, don't relax yet as this is just beginning. Awase, another villain attack. He said worried like his companions. Blood King, isn't that the sports festival is coming up? When the teacher gave the sports festival everyone was excited and encouraged to be the best. Izuku, Professor, how long do we have until the festival arrives? Blood King, there is 1 month left until the festival, so during that time you will have to polish your skills at the academy, and a week before the festival you will be given the week to practice on your own. Everyone was excited and wanted to practice and improve their skills so they could show their class at the sports festival. Tetsu/Awase, let's do our best. All, hi. Blood King, they are indeed animated. At that Izuku approaches, the two look at the others talking to each other and says to Blood King. Izuku, it will be our first time in public with television coverage, I think it's better to be excited than to be nervous. Blood King, you're right. At that point Blood King puts things in order and begins to give his class. After 2 hours the bell is heard. Blood King, I'm leaving so you can go to the dining room, don't forget to give your best. All, hi. Blood King left first. Izuku began to pack his things but heard some discussions, turning his gaze towards the door seeing how people were crowding, and Kendo asked them for permission to pass. Izuku, what's going on? Nato, they must have come to see the magnificent Class B that survived the attack of the villains, we must go and greet them. Nato was about to leave the classroom. Izuku knew he was going to show off, so. Izuku, Nato waits. Nato, what's wrong Izuku? He said, turning around to see Izuku approaching. At that Izuku calls out too. Izuku, oh, Togaru. I shout, calling those mentioned. Jirota. Togaru. Jirota/Togaru, what happened President? They said, approaching Izuku and Nato. Izuku, only Izuku is fine, I called them to kindly accompany Nato to the dining room without talking to those outside. Jirota/Togaru, why? Nato and the two had confused faces. Izuku, you don't want us to make enemies of the entire academy because of Nato, do you? Nato still didn't understand, but Jirota and Togaru took him by the shoulders. Izuku, wait for me to remove the people from the entrance so they can take him. He said to approach Kendo, who was trying to disperse the people so they can leave, but a purple-haired man stands in front of everyone and says. ? So this is Group B of the Heroes course, they don't look very strong. Before Kendo could answer, Izuku is heard speaking. Izuku, appearances can be deceiving, my friend. Don't underestimate others. ? I will simply tell you what I told Group A, if we beat you we will be in the hero course and you will be displaced, Shinso will enter the hero course. Izuku, yes, but each one in this room will not be easily defeated. Now that you have given us your warning, could you please step aside as we need to go to the dining room? Shinso, TSK, it seems you have an amazing quirk to be arrogant. Izuku, excuse me for. Izuku stopped mid-word with his eyes rolled back. Shinso, you have nothing now, kneel down. Those in Class B watched in disbelief as Izuku began to lean slightly. Shinso, ha ha ha, if this is the kind of heroes I will overcome them very easily. Those in the classroom were going to help Izuku to prevent him from kneeling, but they saw how his book came out of him and they calmed down. Izuku, I think attacking someone like that is a bit rude. Shinso was surprised, as Izuku broke free from his control. Shinso, what did you do? Izuku, I don't have to tell you. Shinso was surprised again as he tried to control Izuku again, but it had no effect on him. Shinso, don't think too much of yourself. Izuku, I don't think I'm better than others, so please get out of the way before I get you out of the way. Izuku said calmly but a little angry for almost kneeling before Shinso. Shinso, and what are you supposed to do? He said without moving from the spot as well as the other people around him. Izuku, I did my duty to warn you. He said to take out another grimoire. Everyone saw Shinso stagger and fall. Shinso, what's wrong? He said, alarmed at not being able to see anything. Izuku, don't be scared, I just made you dizzy and blind, it will go away in 15 minutes. Everyone blocking the entrance took a step back. Izuku, you're his friend, right? A fearful black-haired boy. Izuku, please take your friend and take him to the infirmary. In 15 minutes the effects will wear off. The black-haired boy grabbed Shinso and left. Izuku, and you guys? Referring to the rest. Izuku, please disperse my class and I want to go to the dining room. Everyone started to retreat in fear of ending up like Shinso if they made him angry. Izuku, well, who's hungry? He said, looking at his class, starting to head to the dining room, followed by his classmates, Togaru and Jirota still watching Nato. 3 weeks later. After that incident there were no more problems, they were already in their last hour of classes with midnight to go out and have the week free to practice, then the bell is heard. Midnight, okay, young people, that's all. Please take care of yourselves and practice hard for the festival. He said, leaving the room. Everyone was getting ready to leave but Izuku stands in front with a box and says, Izuku, could you guys gather here please? Everyone saw Izuku holding a box and started going to where he was. Tetsu, what happened Izu bro? Kendo, why do you call us Izuku? Izuku, I called you to show you this. He said to open and show some notebooks with numbers from 13 to 18, the surprised boys asked him. Izuku, what are those notebooks? Izuku, well guys you'll see. Izuku told them about his mania for writing down quirks and that those notebooks are the point of view of his quirks. Of course everyone was curious about what Izuku wrote about them. Izuku, there are 4 of you in each notebook. Since you are going to practice for a week, why don't you review in these notebooks what you can improve in the week? Izuku began to hand out the notebooks and the boys began to group together in groups of 4 to see what Izuku wrote about them, being surprised by the detailed information and some techniques they can implement and some improvements he can make to his suit. Yui/Reiko, amazing. They said along with the other students to find ways to use their quirk that they themselves had not thought of. They were all thinking of testing the techniques they read in the notebooks. Izuku, okay guys, I'll leave you the notebooks. I'm leaving. Today is Katsudon Friday. He said to leave the classroom and go home. 1 week later. All of the 1B players were in the locker room. With the men, they were changing and talking. Tetsu, I want to try my new techniques now. Awase, it took me a while to learn them, I had to call Izuku a few times. Togaru, but it was worth it. With the women, they were arguing. Setsuna, I wanted to use the suit upgrades that Izuku-kun made for us. They all glared at her for referring to Izuku that way. Kendo, it can't be avoided, it's to be on equal terms with everyone. Pony, Izuku will surely win, but I won't be left behind. She said excitedly, but Kendo asked. Kendo, when did you learn to speak so fluently? Pony, Izuku helped me during breaks. So another discussion began. Everyone had already changed and were in the room ready to leave with the other classes. Then Present Mike began to call the sections. Present Mike, let's all welcome Class A who survived the villain's attack. Everyone in the audience started screaming with excitement. Class A came out with Todoroki in front, followed by the rest Lita and Bakugo arrogant as always. Present Mike, now welcome Class B, also survivors of the attack, with their president who led both sections during the attack. Let's give him a big ovation. The entire audience cheered the students. Izuku, this will be fun. He said, coming out of the tunnel with his other companions. After the other classes were introduced, the +18 heroine Midnight appeared, causing the male sector to blush strongly. The girls looked at the men with displeasure, but those from Class B and some from A looked at Izuku, but he didn't even flinch at Midnight. Not because he didn't find her attractive, but because he could see 2 heroines behind her in the stands looking at him threateningly, to which he could only think with fear. Izuku, Now what did I do? Midnight, okay, young people, before we start, let's hear a few words from our best first-year student. Izuku, who could it be? Bakugo, what the hell, what am I going to say now? Nato, I will leave Class B on top with my speech, ha 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 ha. They said in their thoughts. Midnight, let's give a big round of applause for young Midorilla. Izuku, huh? Bakugo, damn. Midnight, young man goes up to give his speech to everyone. Izuku, still confused, goes up and stands in front of everyone, while with present Mike and Aizawa. Present Mike, Aizawa, you told him about the speech, right? Watching Izuku climb up confused. Aizawa, I think so. Present Mike just looked at his partner with a drop of sweat. With Izuku, he was in front of everyone and started saying. Izuku, well, this took me by surprise, but I want to say that I will give my all for this festival, and I hope the same for all of you. Don't hold back, because I won't. I want all of us to give our all and show why we are here, plus all, ultra. Izuku came down from the stage and headed to his companions. Kendo, it wasn't bad. Izuku, I just said the first thing that came to mind. Midnight, now we'll choose the events with this. He said to bring up a roulette wheel and start spinning. Midnight, the first test will be an obstacle course. In this race they will have to reach the finish line overcoming a series of obstacles that will be on the track. The first 40 to arrive go to the next round. Now everyone goes to the starting line. With that said, everyone went to the starting line to get ready. Izuku, is it just me or is it really cold in here? Nato, I have cold feet. At that point they looked down and saw a kind of mist coming out of Todoroki. Izuku understood what he was up to and warned his companions who were on alert. Midnight, everybody ready. At that a red light turns on. Midnight, get ready. Yellow light. Green light. Midnight, yeah. Izuku and his companions jumped up, preventing their legs from freezing, and began to run. Todoroki slipped out and Bakugo made loud explosions hurting those around him. With Izuku who was running, he was not in the lead nor did he use his grimoire since he did not see it necessary yet. Suddenly he saw some 0-point robots blocking the way. Present Mike, the first obstacle is the robots from hell. How will they overcome this obstacle? Present Mike, the first obstacle is the robots from hell. How will they overcome this obstacle? Izuku, they sure know how to spend money, I hope they spend it on security too. He said, to see how Todoroki froze the robots and Katsuki blew them up. Everyone saw an opening and ran to where Todoroki froze them. Todoroki, I wouldn't freeze them when they were unbalanced. He said so the robots would start to fall raising some dust. Todoroki just smiled but saw someone come out of the dust. Todoroki, who? He said that he saw Izuku come out with his grimoire at his side. Todoroki, TSK. Todoroki quickened his pace with his ice. With Izuku he had improved his speed, managing to pass before the robots fell silent. Izuku, I saw the opportunity and took it. Izuku continued running. The improvement would continue for at least 2 minutes, then he dodged an explosion from Bakugo. Bakugo, get out of here, nerd. He said to continue, leaving Izuku behind, which he did not take seriously and continued moving forward to find a large precipice. Present Mike, you've reached the second obstacle, the fall of doom. If you fall off the cliff you'll be disqualified. Izuku, okay, this will be easy. With that said, he improved his strength and agility, beginning to jump from pillar to pillar. Present Mike, 2 students from Class A and 1 from Class B are passing by quickly. Bakugo was in the air with his explosions and Todoroki creating a path of ice. Izuku, those 2 don't even seem to break a sweat. He said as he jumped from pillar to pillar. Present Mike, the 2 students from Class A have already passed the precipice and are now in the mine zone. Don't worry, the mines aren't lethal, but they can make you wet your pants. Izuku, hearing that, quickened his pace and when he crossed he reached the mined area. Izuku, those 2 are already way ahead of me, unless. Izuku smiled maniacally and the silver-haired boy got the chills. More participants were arriving and watched Izuku dig up the mines and group them in one place. Some of Izuku's companions saw him and followed. They knew that Izuku was planning something big and with that amount of mines it was better to get out of the way, but the person he wanted didn't arrive. A silver-haired man appears running in the last places since he didn't specialize in speed. Tetsu, Izuku bro, what happened, why are you on your last legs? Izuku, well my dear friend Tetsu was waiting for you to get with you to the first places. Tetsu points his finger at himself. Tetsu, How are we going to do it? Izuku just smiled. That smile gave Tetsu a bad feeling. Izuku, come with me. He said to take him where the mines were together. Tetsu was already understanding Izuku's plan and began to tremble. Tetsu, look Izuku bro, if we hurry we can still get there on foot. He said, trying to save himself, but Izuku grabbed him by the shoulder. Izuku, come on Tetsu, if we can do this we'll get to the top spots. Tetsu thought about what Izuku had said, and why they were already the last ones, so he just resigned himself to his fate. Tetsu, okay. Izuku, okay, don't worry, if something happens I'll heal you, now activate your quirk. With that Tetsu activated his quirk, standing in front of the explosives, and Izuku climbed onto his back. Tetsu, this will leave a mark. He said to jump and boom. Everyone looked at where that explosion came from. Present Mike, what happened? Who made that explosion? Wait a minute, what is that? A bird? A plane? No. It's the two students from Class B who were in last place. Tetsu and Izuku were passing through the air, passing everyone. Todoroki, seeing this, began to create ice to pass, and Bakugo began to use his explosions without caring if he activated a mine near someone. With Izuku and Tetsu. Tetsu, Captain, we are starting to lose altitude, what are we doing? Izuku, I'll open my arms so they can catch as many explosions as possible when you crash. Tetsu, of course it's not you. Izuku, I'll buy you all the food you want after the race. Tetsu, deal. Tetsu opened his arms and slammed into the ground, activating the mines that were beneath him, causing another explosion. Boom. Although the explosion was less strong than the first, it was enough for them to gain momentum. Present Mike, these guys are crazy, they repeated the technique and again got a huge advantage. With the explosion caused, Izuku and Tetsu managed to overcome the minefield and began to fall again. Tetsu, brace for impact. Tetsu hit the ground face first, knocking Izuku down, starting to roll on the floor, but they quickly got up. Tetsu, I'm going to have a headache tomorrow. He said, rubbing his face. Izuku pulled himself together and watched as Todoroki and Bakugo approached at full speed. Izuku, Tetsu, it's not time to think, it's time to run. He said, so that the two of them started running at full speed. Tetsu, run and don't look back. Bakugo and Todoroki were already catching up with them, and the four of them entered the tunnel. Present Mike, and the winner is Midorilla. Ending the cavalry battle, in which Izuku and his team, which were Tetsu, Kendo, Ibara and him, took first place. Their only drawback was Todoroki, who, along with Lida and his team, performed an incredibly fast technique. Izuku was able to save his ribbon by blinding Todoroki, preventing him from seeing where he had it. Now the friends were resting. They had been given a period of time before starting the fighting. They were eating at a stand. Kendo, when the blue-haired guy used that technique, I really thought he would take your ribbon off. Izuku, you have so little faith in me. Nato, I couldn't go to the fights. He said dejectedly, with some bandages on his arm and head since he provoked Bakugo in the middle of the competition. Izuku, who told you to throw an explosion in that madman's face? Nato, but it was worth it, now I understand you, it's relaxing to hit that Muslim. Kendo, well, leaving that aside, who do you think will have to fight? It could be against anyone here. Tetsu, as long as I don't have to face Izuku, everything's fine. Kendo, how little confidence Tetsu. Nato, what happened to manhood? Izuku drank a box of apple juice accompanied by a Ganzito while listening to the conversation. With the boys. Tetsu, if it were you, who would you like to fight against? I, on equal terms, or Izuku, who can leave you blind, dizzy, and debilitated all at the same time. He said while counting with his fingers. Kendo, if you put it like that, Izuku is a bad opponent for anyone. Nato, can Izuku be defeated? They began to discuss plans on how to confront Izuku while the aforementioned just watched in amusement. Izuku, I want another hook. He said in a low voice to stand up and head to the store to buy another one, but a homeless man with a white Pikachu on his shoulder stopped him. Aizawa, Midorilla. Izuku turned around and looked at the person calling him and said. Izuku, sorry, I left my Pokemon at home, it will be for next time. He said to continue his way to the store, but a scarf tied him up. Izuku turned around again and saw Aizawa with a marked vein. Aizawa, the director wants to talk to you. Then they went to one of the stadium's passageways where there was no one. Nezu, student Midorilla, I would like to ask you a favor. Izuku, what do you need, director? Nezu, if you can refrain from using your grimoire of curses in battles. Izuku, why is that? Everyone will go at 100% of their power against me, and why do I have to hold back? Nezu, you see, young man, the sports festival is for the students to show their progress that they have had, but if we put them to fight against you, it would be enough for you to just dizzy him and leave him blind to get him out of the combat arena. That is why I ask you if you can refrain from using it. I am not going to order you to do so since it is your quirk and in combat you can use it as you wish, but I ask you if you could refrain from using it. Izuku, okay director, I'll take your word for it. I won't use it, at least not against everyone. I only ask to use it against Bakugo and Todoroki. Director Nezu knew that Izuku and Bakugo didn't get along. He had done some research on Bakugo since he knew that he was All Might's heir, but the more he searched, the more surprised he was. There were several charges against his name: damage to infrastructure, use of quirks without a license, he abused others, which led him to ask him how did All Might give the OFA to someone like him. On the part of young Bakugo, he already knew why he wanted to use his grimoire against him, but why against Todoroki? That's what he thought. Nezu, why does he want to use his grimoire against student Todoroki? Izuku, I know he's holding back and I want to use everything in me to make him reconsider. Nezu was surprised Izuku wanted to help Todoroki in the middle of the battle when they are opponents. Nezu, you would have been a better carrier, he said in a whisper to himself. Izuku, excuse me. Nezu, nothing of my kind, you have my approval to use it in those fights, but as I told you, you can use it as you like, I'm not forcing you. He said to disappear between Aizawa's scarf. Aizawa, I look forward to seeing how you perform. He said as he began to leave. Aizawa didn't like the idea of making Izuku hold back, but the director was right. At the moment Izuku is ahead of the others, then he hears one of the voices that irritates him the most over the speakers. Present mic, yeah. All contestants return to the stadium, we have a surprise for you. After a few minutes the participants were in the stadium and their companions were in the stands supporting them. Midnight, before we start, since most of you are from the hero course and the student Hitoshi Shinso also has his own costume, we will let you use your hero costumes. Surprise! Everyone was happy as they felt more comfortable in their outfits. Izuku, sorry mine is still under repair. Midnight, Izuku, she said looking at him with predatory eyes, while two heroines and some students from A and B looked at Midnight with murderous eyes and a sinister aura. Midnight, in that case, wear something you feel comfortable with. Then he approaches Izuku. Midnight, you can also go out shirtless if it bothers you. Leaving Izuku blushing and Mirko about to kick the teacher, being stopped by Ryukyu. Izuku, oh, okay. He said nervously. Midnight, okay, everyone go change, in 15 minutes the fights begin. Everyone went to get the hero suits. Izuku had a change of clothes in his locker, but he was also going to the support course to grab some things to better protect himself. 15 minutes later. All the students were returning one by one, they were entering showing their costume, almost all of them were there, only one was missing. Midnight, where is Midorilla? He said, but none of the boys had any idea where he was, but then they heard footsteps approaching and from the tunnel Izuku was revealed with his suit was a combination of casual clothes and several pieces of protection. Izuku, I'm here. He said so that everyone was surprised by the suit that Izuku is wearing. Midnight, boo, well let's start with the fights. He said regaining his composure. Present mic, the first match will be between Midorilla from Class B against Shinso from Class H. The aforementioned were heading to the combat arena while the others retreated to the stands. Ready, Midnight, I speak. Midnight, okay, you know the rules, no low blows, no attacks to kill, no weapons unless they pertain to the use of your quirks. That said, begin. After saying those words Shinso took distance from Izuku, he was afraid that he would use his book again. Izuku, don't worry, I won't use my curses, just this one. He said to take out his book of improvements. Shinso continued to distance himself. He knew that his quirk would be of no use against Izuku, so all he had left was hand-to-hand combat. He thought that Izuku depended on his books and that he didn't know how to fight hand-to-hand, so he launched himself at him. Shinso continued to distance himself. He knew that his quirk would be of no use against Izuku, so all he had left was hand-to-hand combat. He thought that Izuku depended on his books and that he didn't know how to fight hand-to-hand, so he launched himself at him. Shinso, I will win this battle. He said as he headed towards Izuku, but if he had asked any student from Class A or B he would have known that hand-to-hand combat was Izuku's specialty. Shinso threw a punch at Izuku's face. But Izuku saw it amused. He watched as Shinso positioned himself. He noticed that he was a beginner in hand-to-hand combat, so he was quick to respond by blocking the blow and grabbing him by his suit, causing him to lose his balance and slamming him against the floor. Shinso, ah! He said as he fell but immediately rolled to the side to take distance. Shinso, it's definitely not fair. Izuku, what's not fair? Shinso, why are there people like you who are born with an incredible quirk while I have to endure being called a villain? Izuku, incredible quirk? Shinso, being able to do everything you do, many would like your gift. He said to rush against Izuku, trying to connect a blow against him, but Izuku simply grabbed him by the wrist, immobilizing him and advancing, giving him a knee to the stomach, causing Shinto to kneel. Izuku, sorry, but I think you're confused. The fact that my quirk is strong right now is because I trained it until I was exhausted, until my muscles hurt. They told me that I wasn't going to be a hero, that I would only serve as support and that I should give up. He said to throw a punch at Shinso's chest, leaving him without air and throwing him to the edge of the arena. Izuku began to walk towards Shinso while speaking. Izuku, the difference between you and me is that I didn't care what people told me, I fought to achieve my dream, but you got stuck in their words. You say they called you a villain, and what do you care what others think? If your dream was to be a hero, you would have fought to achieve it, but you simply gave up and resented others. Shinso was catching his breath as he stood up. Shinso, you don't know anything about us. Izuku, you neither, because at no time did I hear your classmates or anyone call you a villain. I only hear words of support from them. If you simply feel sorry for others for their quirks and don't value or train yours, you just waste it, that's it. Izuku disappeared and at great speed appeared in front of Shinso. Izuku, pathetic. He said to throw a strong blow at him, knocking him out of the sand. Shinso was thinking about what he said and realized he envied others for their peculiarities, although he didn't like to admit it. He behaved like a perfect idiot. Then he sees an outstretched hand. Looking up, he realized that Izuku was reaching out his hand to help him up. Izuku, but it's never too late to change, train your gift and become a great hero. I hope to see you with us being a hero, Shinso. Shinso, thank you. Midorilla. Midnight, the first fight ended with the winner being Izuku Midorilla. After the first battle, the following ones continued in which people performed excellently, but with Izuku and his friends. Kendo, the winner of the next battle will be the one you will face, Izuku. Izuku watched Sero and Todoroki prepare to start the fight. Izuku, let's see how much power he will show. He said, intrigued, to look at the sand and see a black-haired man in front of a two-colored. Present mic, this battle will be between two students from Class A. Give Todoroki a loud ovation. Present mic, and his serious opponent. Midnight, okay, students, you already know the rules, so let's get started. He said so that Sero would immediately throw his ribbons towards Todoroki, trapping him. Todoroki didn't seem to react, so Sero immediately tried to get him off the platform to win, but then Todoroki raised his head, giving an intimidating look. The tapes were instantly frozen and destroyed. Todoroki, I'll finish this quickly, I'm not in the mood for games. He said to start generating ice. Sero knew what was going to happen, so he launched himself at Todoroki quickly, but Todoroki generated a large amount of ice everywhere, trapping Sero. Present mic, but what happened? Todoroki generated the Titanic iceberg, trapping his opponent. Midnight gives the results. Everyone looks at the heroine, but she is shivering from the cold. Midnight, the winner is everything, Roki. Audience woha. Everyone was excited by this display of power. Present mic, okay, the next fight will start in 10 minutes so we can clear the platform. With that said, some people in the stands got up to go to the bathroom or buy more food. Izuku stood up. Pony, where are you going, Izuku? Izuku, I'm going to the bathroom for a moment. Having said this, he began to head to the bathrooms to wet his head to think better about what he was going to do, while talking to himself. Izuku, against Todoroki it will be difficult, I will have to start with everything. But then he hears a voice behind him that takes him out of his thoughts. Todoroki, I hope you don't underestimate me, Midoriya. Izuku stops his steps without turning around and Todoroki continues. Todoroki, I hope you attack me with everything and don't underestimate me. Izuku, without turning to look at him, answers. Izuku, first of all let me thank you for helping us in the attack of the USJ. Secondly, I will attack with the same force with which you attack me, so you do not underestimate me, Todoroki, and use all your power. He said as he continued walking, leaving Todoroki a bit annoyed. Izuku continued walking, sinking back into his thoughts. but someone hugged him from behind, bringing him out of his trance. Mirko, hello Izuku, I hope you are ready for your next battle. Izuku turned around and saw two heroines he knew very well. Izuku, what are you doing here Rumi, Ryaku? Mirko, we just came to wish you luck but knowing you, you will surely destroy the ice cream. Ryukyu, calm down Mirko, but if we came to wish you luck, by the way, where were you going? Izuku, I was on my way to get wet to wake up for the fight. Mirko, you will surely win though. Why didn't you use your curses in your first encounter? You would have easily won if you had used it from the beginning. She said with doubt accompanied by Ryuko who was also doubtful as to why. Izuku, well the director asked me if I could avoid using it so that my opponents could show their skills. Ryuko, well it makes sense since the heroes have to see the potential of the students to send internships. Izuku, internships? Ryuko, well after the festival the professional heroes who have agencies send out offers for students to spend 2 weeks with them and get field experience. Izuku, then you too can send requests. Mirko, well. Ryuko, the only one of the two that can send is me since this rabbit practically invaded my agency and made my office her room. Mirko, hee but your office is very big I don't know what you're complaining about. Mirko said smiling, and they continued talking pleasantly, but a dwarf was spying on them and cursing the green-haired boy. Mineta, damn how that stand can be with such beauties. He said with jealousy and left the place to tell the others. With Izuku he was saying goodbye to the heroines going in to wet his head and as he was leaving he was intercepted by the number 2 hero. Endeavor, so you are Midoriya. Izuku, well that's what they call me, you want hero number 2. Those words bothered the Human Torch a little. Endeavor, don't think too much because you're going to face my perfect creation. Izuku, you mean Todoroki, by any chance he's not your son? Endeavor, yes, he is destined to surpass All Might but first he will destroy you, you will be a step in his rise to the top, when he accepts his fire side he will be unstoppable, there will be no one. Endeavor kept talking but Izuku just said. Izuku, how stupid. Endeavor, sorry. Endeavor was shocked by Izuku's insult. Izuku, from what you tell me, you don't see Todoroki as your son but as a tool to achieve a stupid dream, a dream that you couldn't achieve due to your lack of effort. Endeavor, how dare you? Izuku, you say that he doesn't accept his fire side, I imagine it's your fault, listen Eternal number 2 if Todoroki accepts his side it will be so that he can achieve his dream, not to achieve yours. Izuku started walking leaving Endeavor boiling in rage telling him some last words. Izuku, your dream is something so pathetic perfect for a pathetic person like you see you hero number 2. Izuku continued walking until he heard over the speaker. Present mic, the platform is now ready we apologize for the delay now the participants are being called for the battle. Izuku started walking towards the preparation places. Minutes later. He was getting ready to go out and then he listened to the presentations. Present mic, this battle will be between the best of each Class A and B, representing Class A Shoto Todoroki. Audience, woha. Present mic, and the student of the grimoires, the student Izuku Midoriya, showing face for Class B. Audience, woha. The two fighters come out of the tunnels and stand on the platform looking at each other, then a Midnight covered in a blanket spoke. Midnight, you know the rules and Todoroki tries to keep your attacks within the platform. Todoroki, okay. Midnight, then begin. Izuku quickly took out his enhancement grimoire. But then Todoroki froze everything, trapping Izuku inside a large block of ice, surprising everyone. Todoroki, it's over. He said exhaling a cold air, to start walking towards the exit. Midnight was going to announce Todoroki as the winner but... Crack! That sound was heard from the block of ice that had Izuku but it continued to be heard. Crack crack. Suddenly everyone watched in amazement as the ice began to crack. Upon seeing this, Todoroki began to send ice to reinforce the broken parts, but before he could do so. Blam! The ice burst freeing Izuku. Izuku, wow that was refreshing. He said with a smile. Izuku, well let's start. He said to disappear in a blur and appear next to Todoroki throwing a punch to his face. Todoroki tried to cover himself with ice but the one he managed to make was not strong enough so it broke under the impact of the blow but reduced the damage. Todoroki, damn. He said but saw how Izuku without wasting time began to attack him so Todoroki dodged and blocked as he could in that he saw an opportunity raising a great wall between them. Izuku, this glass wall won't save you, you know. He said to throw punches at the wall, starting to break it. Todoroki took all the distance he could. He began to generate more ice, preparing pillars to throw at him as soon as he knocked down the wall, which he was achieving. Boom 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 boom. The blows to the wall were heard and suddenly the wall broke, raising a kind of fog, but they managed to see a silhouette that was heading towards Todoroki, to which he began to throw the ice pillars in his direction. But Izuku only dodged it without problem, so Todoroki raised another ice wall, staying very far from the edge, began to generate a large amount of ice to make another large-scale attack, but in that Izuku screams. Izuku, that won't do anything to me and you know it. Todoroki, I will defeat you with just this power, you should take this seriously. Izuku, if you only use your 50% is what you will get from me. He said to immediately launch himself against Todoroki, who continued to reinforce the ice wall, preventing Izuku from knocking it down. Todoroki, I won't use that bastard's power. Izuku, so why do you want to be a hero? The day they need your fire and you don't want to use it, you will let people die because you don't want to use your power. Todoroki couldn't answer. Izuku, everyone in this place came to give their all to be heroes, and you think that with only 50% you will achieve something? You're just insulting us. He said so that with one blow he could destroy the wall. Izuku, tell me Todoroki, whose dream is it to be a hero? Is it yours or that second rate? That power doesn't belong to that bastard, it's only yours. You were born with it and it's up to you how to use it, so tell me what you answer, Todoroki. Todoroki at that moment understood he couldn't be a hero if he didn't give his all. He wanted to be a hero who saved everyone, he wanted to help others. At what point did he let his goal change? Todoroki, Midoriya, you are seriously crazy helping your opponent. You are right, I have been insulting them, so allow me to remedy it. At that point the temperature starts to rise. Todoroki, Midoriya, I won't have anything left after this, let's settle everything in this attack. Izuku, sounds good to me, Todoroki. Izuku summoned his grimoire of curses. Midoriya, damn, I can't blind him or make him dizzy, I'd risk the attack reaching other people, damn it, all that's left is to take it head on. He said in his thoughts. Midnight, Detengan Cementos, this is out of control. He said to tear his suit, and Smints began to form a wall between the two. Izuku weakened Todoroki's quirk, causing him mental and physical fatigue. At the same time he had improved himself in every sense of strength, resistance, speed, everything, but Todoroki's attack was still powerful, so he was still going to receive it head on. Todoroki, Midoriya. Izuku, Todoroki. The two of them launched themselves, provoking. Everyone was almost sent flying by the explosion wave but managed to stay in place, something that Midnight and Cementos couldn't do because they were close to the explosion. After everyone recovered, Present Mike spoke. Present Mike, what kind of monsters are those that feed them? Midnight, WHO1. The talking hero asked. Midnight, the question is who survived? He said to start looking at the platform looking for the winner, in that he managed to see a very hurt, burnt-haired boy standing in the middle of the arena, but when he concentrated more he managed to see further ahead a bicolor in a deplorable state embedded in a wall outside the platform. Midnight, the winner, is Midoriya.